28 Years Later is out in movie theaters now. It is the third in the zombie apocalypse franchise based in the UK. This one's directed by Danny Boyle. He wasn't the director of the second one. He did direct the first real movie to be shot on digital. And it's an excellent film. There's a reason it's doing so well at the box office. The premise is fairly straightforward. A young 12-year-old boy, Spike, takes his ailing mother off of the island in which they are sanctuaried from the mainland, where the disease is still rampaging 28 years later, and he takes her to the mainland in order to help find a doctor to diagnose and cure her. It's a movie that delves into themes of love, death, humanity, and really ultimately asks the question, are human beings worth saving? Welcome to the channel, guys. I'm Pete, actor, filmmaker, storyteller. Smash the like button if you like this video and hit subscribe for more movie reviews. I'm going to try to have one out every single week for the rest of the year. So the movie starts out 28 years after the original film, and all of the UK is still under quarantine. The Americans did try to go in there in the second movie and salvage it, but it turned out to not be possible. And for now, this entire island, all of the UK, is on quarantine from the rest of the world. No one's allowed in, no one is allowed out. There is a small community of survivors that are on an island about half a mile off of the mainland, because I guess the premise is that zombies can't swim and they won't be able to get to them. They've built up a little community for themselves. They're thriving, they're doing well, but they cannot go to the mainland very often, and when they do, there's often casualties. 12-year-old Spike, who is the protagonist of the film, excellent young actor, and his dad leave the island for reasons that are a little bit flimsy. The idea is that they're supposed to go to the mainland and come back before the high tide comes because there's a land bridge connecting the island to the mainland. But like I said, the reasons that they go are a little bit flimsy. It's sort of a hero's journey arc, a little bit sort of a coming of age movie for this 12-year-old kid. Here's my problem with that whole thing. I need stakes. For me to really invest in whatever's going on, I kind of need there to be strong reasons for why they had to leave their relatively safe island to go to the mainland. And I won't spoil it, but the reasons for which they go just didn't really grab me. Now, the purpose of this trip from a storytelling point of view was to set up what happens later on in the movie. And while I get that, it kind of felt like you could have also added some more stakes to make it more compelling. Maybe that's hair splitting a little bit, but it was just a minor criticism of the opening third of the movie. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Jodie Comer, and Fiennes star in this film, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson plays his dad. They go on this little trip to the mainland. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know anything at all about the movie, fast forward the next 10 seconds. They do make it back to the island, but just barely. After this trip, which sort of metaphorically establishes young Spike as a man in the community, Spike starts to have some realizations that maybe his dad is not exactly who he thought he was, and he starts to question a lot of things. Now, this whole time, his mom has been sick with a mystery illness. It's not abundantly clear from the beginning if she's physically ill or mentally ill, but definitely there's something wrong with her. She can't get out of bed. She has a lot of mental confusion. And it's not really clear what's going on. What we do know is that there's sort of a strained relationship between his parents, and in the end, he decides to take his mom to the mainland in order to try to find a doctor to diagnose and cure, hopefully, whatever disease she's having. Now, obviously, those are some higher stakes. He wants to save his mom, and that's really when I became quite invested in the film. As they travel through the mainland, there's threats everywhere. There's, obviously under the attack of zombies on a pretty consistent basis. But you're rooting for them to go and find whoever this mysterious doctor is and what will be the outcome. They sort of come across this different cast of characters as they move along, and it makes it interesting, and we get to see a really strong bond between mother and son, which, to be honest, isn't always something we see in Hollywood, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that aspect of, young boy and his mother trying to work together to achieve a certain outcome that could save both of them. I'll say here that if you like Danny Boyle, this is an absolute must-watch. He's known for his excellent cinematography and imagery, and that continues to near perfection in this film. Unusual cuts, unusual angles, jump cuts, frames that really grab your attention that you don't often see in Hollywood typically, and it's just so classically Danny Boyle. So if you're a Danny Boyle fan, this is an absolute must-see, and I highly recommend that you do. He also uses some very interesting imagery in this film, cut throughout various sequences. It's footage from history, like historical footage, or it's footage from past films, typically very old ones. It's a little bit unsettling and you're not always sure what the message is with that sudden imagery. I took it as Danny Boyle trying to explore the very primal nature of humanity, to basically say that we've always been at war, we've always been trying to kill each other. And as we start to go throughout the film, you're wondering, is that an excuse for humanity? Is he saying, look, violence has always been part of human nature and so it continues? Or is he asking the question, what does that say about us and our humanity? It's very interesting, it's unusual, and it really, really grabbed me. As we get later on in the film, we hear the phrase from one of the key characters, memento mori. That's the Latin word, remember death. And you can tell that Danny Boyle here is trying to get the idea across that we are all going to die. It's a good reminder of that. And the fact that you're going to die should impact and influence how you live. We see this in several other characters too, when they're sort of casually discussing their lives. And you can tell that it's a very thought-provoking journey for Danny Boyle himself, because it subtly asks the question, are the zombies that have been inflicted by this rage virus human? And if they are, what does that mean about how we protect ourselves against them? There's a big contrast in the film with some of the characters who are there for survival and basically trying to live throughout this catastrophe, and some of the characters who are either looking for a solution or using it as a time to reflect on what it means to be truly human. I remember reading a quote one time that said, catastrophe makes villains of us all. And you do see that a little bit in this film, where when you're fighting for survival, you end up doing things that in a polite civil society, we would consider horrible things, but maybe are things that deep down in our primal nature, we're all capable of when under duress, or when our lives or our ability to thrive as human beings is threatened. The acting in this movie is excellent. Every single one of the cast is beautiful. It was subtle in a lot of ways, especially with the kid who plays Spike. It's a subtle acting, but really, really powerful, grounded, realistic. The characters do drive the movie, but so much of it is driven by cinematography, and I really, really enjoyed that. If I had any qualms with this movie, apart from the one that I said at the beginning, where maybe for the first third, the stakes didn't really feel high enough, it's that for me, if you're going to do an apocalyptic movie, or a zombie apocalyptic movie specifically, you're already delving very far into the realm of the highly unrealistic. Now, maybe it's a personal thing, but if you're going to do that, I like the rest of the movie to feel as realistic as possible, given the imaginary circumstances. And it doesn't really do that. There are several things throughout the movie where it was hard to suspend disbelief. It was hard to buy in. There's a character who manages to stay on the mainland for 28 years with very little weapons or resources. And I just didn't buy that, considering that every time any other character existed on the mainland, their life was under threat almost constantly. So there's elements of this that are highly unrealistic, and that did take me out of it a little bit. Not to the point where I didn't enjoy the movie, but that would be a qualm I would have, even if it is nitpicking a little bit. I just like to be grounded in reality if you are really in unrealistic circumstances. But other people would say, hey, if you're delving into fantasy, which is essentially what a zombie apocalypse is, why not delve as far as possible and tell the story however you want to tell it? And I think that's a fair way to look at it. It's just not for me. The final scene of the movie is a fantastic setup for the next movie, 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which is coming out next year. It's already been shot. They shot these two movies, one after the other, and it will come out next year. That one was not directed by Danny Boyle. I'm interested to see how it was. That last scene is not only compelling and hilarious, it also gave me a little bit of Guy Ritchie vibes. I won't spoil it, but it's definitely a fantastic setup for what I think is going to be a fantastic fourth movie in the franchise, and I hope this movie continues to go and break box office records. On opening weekend, this movie already broke the franchise records for the previous two films, and I hope that it continues to do well and that audiences go to see it, because I think it is a fantastic movie despite the small qualms that I have with it. I'm going to give this movie 8.5 out of 10. Definitely feels like a movie you want to see in the theaters, though. Don't wait for it to come out on streaming. Go watch it in the theaters. It's worth the price of admission. Guys, I loved this movie, and I hope you do too. Thanks for watching. Again, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit subscribe. I'm going to be doing one of these every week. Tell me in the comments what you thought of this movie, and tell me also what movies you want me to review in the future. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.